Well, I used to do all-star cheer, which is just all like year-round competition cheer. And we had to take photos of our new uniforms. And I kind of just fell in love with it after that because I loved being behind the camera and then also getting to like see the other side of like the photographer's perspective and like how they think a shoot's going to turn out. And it was just really interesting. And like there's so many factors that play into it, like lighting and angles, and it was really fun. So I got into it from that.
It's very cool. And had you done photography before?
No, not at all. So it was really like interesting because it was a whole new world to explore.
Well, and your mother, of course, is a fantastic photographer, and she takes photos of you every chance she gets.
Yes.
Did that play a factor? Did you ever do some modeling, just sort of with the family and try and test things out?
Not really. I mean, like we took pictures on our phones. I mean, like I feel like every person does, but not with like an actual camera or anything too serious. She started taking photos of me after I started modeling, but nothing before that really.
Do you remember your first modeling experience?
It was it was really I was really nervous because like in photos you have to express a story and you have to have different facials and show your emotions through your face and your body and your just body posture and language. And so I was really nervous because I didn't think I was going to be able to express any of that because of my nerves. I thought my nerves were going to show, but I had so much fun. I learned so much my first shoot because I got to learn like you have to face the light, and they would show me like if you face one way, this is how it's going to look, and if you face the other way away from the light, this is how it's going to look. And it's really fun, and I had a great time my first time. I was nervous in the beginning, but afterwards it was really fun.
So by now you've done hundreds of shoots and you've done runway, you've done a whole bunch of stuff. Do you still get nervous?
um I think I get nervous when, especially when it's new photographers, um just because every photographer has their own little thing that they like to do, or has certain things that they don't like and do like, because different photographers just have different creative minds. And so I get nervous with that, but I don't think the actual modeling part I get nervous with. I think it's just the connection and like how I think our both of our creative brains are going to collab. Just I think I get nervous about that, but I would say I get more nervous about runway just because, I could trip and fall at any moment. So, and you never really know what you're gonna, like how the dress is gonna fit until like a couple weeks before. And yeah, so not really, not as much.
So do you remember your first runway experience?
Oh dear God, yes. I was so nervous. I think that was the most nervous I've ever been because I mean, like, I knew how to walk in heels. I was like, oh, I'll be fine. And then once I saw the heels that I had to wear, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to walk in those. And you have to walk to kind of the beat of the music, and you got to remember to stop and pose in certain places. And I remember I got on the stage and like all the lights were so bright, and I kind of just forgot about everything. I did fine, but I forgot about everything because I was just so nervous. But yeah, I mean, uh, it was a time. It was a time.
So who did you walk for?
Um, I would say, what was it?
The very first one, I
Yeah,
think, was Myung
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Myung
for Seattle Aphrodite.
in Vancouver.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was in Vancouver.
So it was an international one to boot.
Yeah, international for the first one, so that was pretty nervous. Like, yeah, but it was really fun, and now we're super close to her, and I walk for her all the time now. I love her stuff. It's so creative.
Yes, her Aphrodite line is fantastic. It features a lot of very unique and in many cases a lot of hand-painted designs. She's a multi-talented artist in a whole bunch of different mediums as well, painting as well as dance and performance art. Very, very cool all-around person as well, her and her husband.
Yes.
Um, well, it's what's really interesting is there's just on my side of things as a photographer, in particular someone in the fashion world, what I get is usually I get a lot of moms, they reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I just want you to photograph my daughter." And I think that's really great. And one of the things that I hear quite often is, it's sort of removed from the fashion experience or maybe the fashion trappings. It has this really interesting psychological component to it. And when you reduce the request down, it's usually, I just really want my daughter to have confidence. I just really want her to develop a sense of self, and I really want her to sort of step into her own being. Can you help her with that? And that's a really, really cool place to be. And it's a really interesting thing to be able to offer through the photographic arts and through fashion in particular. And, with your history with cheer and various other activities, um, you sort of had to develop that drive, that sort of personal
Yeah.
perseverance, that resilience. And whether you feel nervous or not, you just got to go get them and get it done. And I'm curious if you could talk maybe for just a minute about, what has your experience been like, and how has your sense of self developed, and how have you, or have you experienced a significant change in the way you see yourself and how you carry yourself?
Um, I would say before I started this journey, I obviously did like all-star cheer, so I was on stage in front of a bunch of people, but that was also like a team factor, so it wasn't just me. So I had confidence in doing my job because I was with a team. And I think once I started modeling, I didn't have that much self-esteem or confidence because one, I've never really had photos taken of me, and they have all different angles. So it was like after my first shoot, I saw pictures of all these different angles of me, and I was like, oh, I don't like that one, don't like that one, that one's fine. So I think throughout this journey, it's taken me a while to get comfortable with all angles of myself because you're constantly being taken pictures of in different angles and different lighting, and it's just a photo from one angle can look totally different from another with different lighting. Um, but my confidence has definitely built up because of modeling, because I think especially when you're with creative people all the time, and makeup artists, photographers, and other models, it's really a collab thing, and we just all try to build each other up and embrace everyone's differences because everyone looks different. Everyone has one thing that they don't feel comfortable about. I know specifically for me, before I started, I was very insecure because I used to get bullied about my nose. So I was really insecure about that when I started modeling because of profile pictures. And I really hated taking those pictures because I didn't want to look at them. And I remember I would get a lot of photos back from shoots and I would just not want to look at them because I didn't even want to know that those pictures were out there and that they were taking of me and that people could see them. But it wasn't easy, and it wasn't a short journey to have confidence, but now I really do have confidence in myself. But I don't think anyone's ever going to be 100% confident with themselves or 100% sure of who they are. But I definitely have a bigger perspective on kind of how this creative world works and just confidence in myself.
I'm curious, how would you define beauty, or has your definition of beauty or your thoughts about beauty changed during this journey?
I would say they definitely have changed, and I wouldn't say I have a specific definition of beauty still because, beauty is always changing. The fashion industry is always changing their perspective and standards on what beauty is. But I think before I started modeling, I kind of only knew what beauty was through magazines and through, famous models and singers that were beautiful and would take photos, and I would just think of them when I thought of beauty or when someone would say beauty. But I think now, because I've got to see so many different sides of who people are and their creative minds and works, I think beauty could be your physical appearance or your intelligence. I think it could be pretty much anything. But before, I really thought it was just your outside appearance because that's what the world puts it out to be, is just your outside appearance. But there are people who have beautiful minds. They're so intelligent. And I think when somebody is so smart and intelligent and know what they want to do, that is beautiful.
I absolutely concur. I think that's a wonderful definition that we have for ourselves there. And, fashion is predicated upon, in a lot of ways, fantasy and the external realities that we create as a form of expression. And yet, whenever the lights are on and you're about to hit that runway, it's all about confidence. It's about that internal and connecting the internal with the external, that sort of intrinsic sense of self and sense of confidence, with these external manifestations of the way that we sort of interpret that and the way that we can express it. That's sort of the intersection that fashion really presents to the world today. And as it pertains to beauty, you have a brand that you've developed over the last few years in particular, especially for someone so young, is very consistent. And it seems like you kind of figured out the stuff that you like, and it looks like you kind of figured out the stuff you're good at, and you started building a book around that. I wonder if maybe you can talk just a little bit about sort of how you see your brand, kind of how you see your portfolio and your book developing. And was that strategic, or did it naturally and organically develop over time?
I think it wasn't strategic. I think it was just natural, because in the beginning, I just wanted to experiment with all different types of shoots and um, modeling types. And I think I just kind of found my groove and feel in a couple certain types and stuck with that. It wasn't anything like purposeful. It was just kind of natural to go into that. But I would say my brand would be, I'm very like, I love experimenting with new things. So I'm very open to new shoots and different ways of shooting. So I would say every time I go to shoot, I try to do something new. I try not to do the same thing every single time. But I don't like crazy stuff. I'm not a crazy like cosplay, stuff like that. I'm not super into that. But I would say avant-garde. I love avant-garde. And just anything like that tells a story. I think that would be my brand, is I try to tell a story every time I go to a shoot. And that's why I love listening to music when I'm shooting, because especially when it matches with kind of what we're going for, because I can put that in my brain and just kind of try to express that, because I'm very connected with music. I love music. I listen to music all the time. Sometimes instead of like talking to people, I just listen to music and kind of the music will talk back to me, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think I'm a very open person when it comes to trying new things and different shoots and styles. But I would say I really do try to tell a story, because you can look at a picture, but if there's no story, then what's the picture?
Well, I am a little biased, as I am operating an editorial publication currently, so I 100% support storytelling for sure.
Mm.
Um, but I hope this doesn't sound ageist. That's not what I'm trying to say. For someone of your age, being so young and being signed and having commercial representation, I am very curious how that sort of shaped the way that you see, you kind of see your career path. And I think it's a very important conversation to have, because, interestingly enough, what I and others like me, and certainly agents and representatives here, is models saying, "Oh, I got a commercial job. Does that mean I can drop out of school, or does that mean I shouldn't do other stuff?" And uh, my answer is always, you absolutely have to do other stuff, and
Yeah.
you 100% need to have a plan A in mind. And you come from a background, your mom working in medical, of course, and you have a lot of aspirations to help others and to be of help, especially in the medical field, which is very, very cool. And I think maybe a good way of framing this question, especially for people that are your age, maybe watching this, is, what advice would you give them for sort of finding that balance between, okay, it's really cool that I can do modeling, which is really fun, and maybe there's an opportunity for a job to make money at it. At the same time, I have this other passion that I have and this other career path and this desire that I want to pursue. How do you sort of navigate the balance between those two things?
Um, my advice would be you're young. If you're my age, you're young. And I would try to explore everything and anything as much as you can when you're my age, because you have your support system, and you have something to fall back on. But I would never drop out of school just for modeling, because I think school's something you really need, especially after high school. Like, I really want to go into college and get my nursing degree. But my advice would just be to experiment and see what you like, because I knew I wanted to go into healthcare, but I didn't know kind of like what specific thing I wanted to do. And then I was also trying to model. And modeling at first was a hobby, just something I liked doing. And now it's kind of my job, but I really love it. And I think if you love doing something, then you can find a way to do it. And if you love doing multiple things, you can find a way to balance it out. And I think it just kind of depends on the person. But I would say it definitely does get stressful sometimes, trying to balance modeling and school and cheer and choir, just trying to balance all of those and make sure that they don't overwhelm me. But I think because you're going to be out doing all of those things during the day, and once you just get back to your home and just get in bed and just relax, everything's better. And so I think just finding time during your day to just relax, because balancing all those things can be stressful, but it is worth it if you love doing them. Obviously, if you are someone who doesn't like school or modeling and you're trying to balance both of those out, you're not going to enjoy it because you don't love both of them. But I'm a very, I don't even know how to describe myself. I love learning new things, whether it be lighting with modeling or angles, or whether it be something about history in school or something like that. I always love learning new things, so I find a way to balance out my learning.
It's very cool. And as far as I did want to talk about your sort of education track, and life in the sort of pandemic era. This pause that we've all been on has, of course, been different. But even before that, you were up early in the morning. There were rehearsals. There was workouts. There was vocals. There was studying. There was just all manner of things. And what are some key tactics that people can employ if they're trying to really increase their sort of workload or increase their output? How can they start strategically planning out and executing these things?
During quarantine?
Well, either during quarantine, maybe we can do before quarantine, and then certainly after. Yeah.
I think we definitely have a lot more options when we're not in quarantine to be able to do those things. But I think you just have to sit down with yourself and kind of plan things out and set goals. But I would start out with small goals just so you can reach them and have that good feeling, and then move up to bigger goals with what you want to do and how you want to strategically plan it out. But I really think it's just a you thing. You have to sit down and plan it with yourself. But now that we're in quarantine, everything's kind of shifted and changed. Specifically for me, I don't have choir anymore, so I kind of have to find time during the day to just try to sing and get my vocals back, since I don't have my teacher. And the gym is closed, so I had to pretty much turn my tennis court into a workout space. But I think I kind of strategically planned it out. Like, in the morning, I have classes. I wake up around 6:40 because I have Zoom calls starting at 7. And then I'm done around noon. And then from there, I kind of, go do music, and then I go work out, and then I catch up on all new modeling stuff. And so I think you kind of have to just plan it out to where you feel comfortable, and allow some time during the day to just be you, especially if you're a teenager, to just sit down and be a teenager and go hang out with your friends, or be on your phone, watch TikToks. You just need time to, like, in between your day, to relax and just be you, and just be a normal teenager in order to strategically plan things out. Because I also feel like if things are too planned out, then there's no adventure, because it's kind of everything's set and you have to follow it. So if you allow time in between to do what you want and just explore, then it'll be worth it, and it'll feel like an adventure, and it'll also be planned out at the same time.
Adventure and fun is, of course, a necessary ingredient at any age, and in particular for yours. I am very curious, shifting gears just a little bit, and it has, it's certainly been an incredibly trying time for a lot of families, a lot of young people in particular, and with issues like anxiety and depression and self-harm being so prevalent anyway, especially in the Northwest, the pandemic has really exacerbated these issues, and you feel free to share as much or as little as you want, but I am curious, as someone that has that sort of entrepreneurial drive and someone that has a good support system, what are some key factors that just need to be in place to help give people a fighting chance to get through this? And what are ways that you really stay connected to that, to whatever it is that you have in your life that gives you that sense of peace and that joy and that calm and that comfort?
I think during this quarantine time, something that specifically has helped me, I've never really had really bad depression or anxiety or things of that nature, but I do get sad sometimes. I feel like everyone does. But I think during this quarantine, taking time for yourself is a huge thing, because before quarantine, we had all this social media, and that's where a lot of depression was coming from, because people were picking on each other, and it was just, you would go through your phone scrolling on Instagram and you would see these beautiful girls and with these beautiful bodies, and they are just made to look so perfect, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't feel the same. But I feel like also before quarantine, we were so distracted by multiple things that we weren't fixated on social media and how people are presented in social media. But now that we're in quarantine, all we pretty much have to stay connected is our phones. We have, personal interaction with our families because we're stuck with them. But I mean, like seeing your friends and stuff like that, you have to FaceTime and you have to text them. And I feel like we are so now fixated on our phones because that's all we have. And it's so prevalent wherever you go, because people, they look on their phones for entertainment, and they also look for just like connection with people. And so I think really just taking a step back from your phone overall is a really big part in, keeping sanity during this time, because so many people are on their phones now, and that's all there ever is just phone, 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 phone. And so many things could be said through social media, and it just gets seen like that because of how fast things work. And so I think if you take time for yourself and with your family and just build a stronger connection with your support system, that after quarantine we'll be able to go back to the same that we were and not go insane during this quarantine time.
It was very, very good advice. And on the topic of sort of staying sane and having fun, what do you do? What's the most fun thing that you've had a chance to experience during this quarantine?
I went hiking. I've never gone hiking before, so
You've never gone hiking before? What?
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." I don't know. I never really had that urge to want to go. But then all my friends started talking about it, and I was like, you know what? I probably should go. I'm not gonna lie, I died the first half because it was straight up. And they said it was beginner's hike. I beg to differ. It is not. But it was really fun. So I think that was the most fun. And I love nature and just views. Oh my God, I would die for beautiful views. So we went hiking on Mount Eleanor. It's by Lake Cushman up near there. And it was beautiful. And oh my gosh, I'm going to start hiking a lot more because it's very peaceful and an adventure, because, we had to drive almost 2 hours to get there. So it's a little road trip and it's fun. So, I mean, I would say that's the most fun I've done, other than, getting out of my bed and going down to the hot tub and then back to my bed. Nothing really else.
Well, if you want to have a lot of fun, you should definitely go up to Mount Rainier mid-July. It's the most interesting experience. It's one of the most interesting experiences you can have when you're walking in 90-degree weather up the side of a mountain, and then you just glissade down these snowpacks on your way back down. And it is just very beautiful and peaceful and tranquil. And there's a lot of things that are restorative about being in nature, and it's been proven that it is very calming, and it does have a lot of positive effects for your mental state and for the way that you see your perception. You see yourself in the world around you and your circumstances. I'm very curious if you had any sort of advice to give to people, perhaps that are your age, but you're certainly smart enough to anyone any age. I think that it's very applicable. Um, as we're sort of opening up the state again and looking towards getting back out and about, and we just had Memorial Day weekend and a whole bunch of people, crowded lakes and beaches and so forth. How are you sort of planning to re-engage with the world around you, and what sort of advice would you give to people in your situation that are really looking forward to re-engaging the world around them?
Um, I think it's a kind of like do it as you go thing because, this quarantine was unexpected and nobody saw it coming, and everything's kind of just, play it by ear right now. But I kind of plan on slowly getting back into my life before quarantine. I don't want to rush back into it because, I kind of gotten used to how my life is now, and, very little interaction with people, and just, I feel like quarantine is really focused on yourself because you pretty much talk to yourself during quarantine because that's all you really have. Um, but my advice would just be kind of going at your own pace. If you see your friends going out and like hanging out with a bunch of people all the time after quarantine and you don't want to do that quite yet, then don't. Go at your own pace because you will need to step in it and be comfortable with doing it, because I know a lot of people are very scared about quarantine and what is going on around us. And so just doing it as in your own pace will, I feel like, be very beneficial to people.
Oh, for sure. And certainly developing that sense of self-awareness and to know kind of how your body's reacting and how your state of mind is, and being very, very aware and having mindfulness practices is very important. And, I did want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, and I wonder if maybe you can comment on it in a little bit of detail. And, especially with bullying, especially with cyberbullying, and especially with what I like to call a phone fast, where it's just sort of I try to do 30 days. Usually it's at the beginning of the year. I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but disconnecting from everything and trying to live in that tension of, oh my God, do I really need my phone right now? And the answer is no. But now it's just been so critical to stay connected and to feel like you're not alone. How do you deal with things like criticism and with bullying, and in what ways or what methods or what tools can people gain um, to not just develop a thick skin, but to develop the resilience and the understanding of their own unique value and how to deal with all this 24/7 connectedness?
Hmm. Um, that's a very hard question. I feel like everyone deals with criticism and bullying in different ways. Some people um, can handle a lot more than other people. And I know personally for me, you could say one thing and I would cry in the beginning. But I think you just have to develop a thick skin, and you have to take into consideration that everyone has different ideas of what beauty is. And if you don't match theirs, then so be it. But if they're going to take the time out of their day to talk about how you don't fit their idea of beauty, then let them. They're taking time out of their day to try to hurt you. And if you don't show them that it affects you, then they'll stop. Because if it doesn't hurt you, then what's the point of them doing it? And so I think you kind of just have to think in the end and be like, if I'm comfortable with myself, then that's all that matters. Because you cannot prove to everyone that you are beautiful and that you fit all of these standards, and not everyone is going to agree with how you look or how you go about living your life. And I really think it's, I mean, I can't say for everyone, but because I haven't gone through my whole life, but I would say for teenagers, I believe it's very hard with bullying because, you know, you have high school and you have what everyone considers to be popular, and you have to live up to those standards to even be known in high school. And so I really think it's a very pressured kind of space to be in, especially during this time, quarantine, because everything's on your phone and people can say whatever they want. And it's not face to face. And I feel like a lot of people do say things over online because it's not face to face, and it's a lot easier to say it. But I feel like you just have to brush them off. And I know it's easier said than done to just brush them off. And it took me a while to be able to just brush it off, even just a little, because yeah, when people say things, it does hurt. But you just gonna have to, I don't even know, just let it go and look in the mirror and feel comfortable with yourself. If you are not comfortable with yourself, then that's where it needs to start. Because if you're not comfortable with yourself, then yes, when somebody says something, it's going to put you down. So I feel like you have to develop a sense of confidence and comfort to be able to brush those things off and defend yourself and feel confident even when people try to say things that will hurt you.
I think it's very timely and excellent advice. I would definitely ditto that for sure. And switching gears just a bit to on the topic of fashion, but looking forward and looking ahead, what are you most excited about as far as fashion goes? Are there any runway shows? Have you had any time to think about that?
I would say I'm just excited to actually be able to shoot with people like in person, because I did like FaceTime shoots and porch shoots that are like 6 feet away, but it's that people interaction that I really want and miss and I'm excited for. And just learning, because I know after this quarantine, photographers are going to be like, oh my God, I have this and this and this and this I want to try, because they've had all this time to just sit here and think of like new ways to go about taking pictures or to tell stories. And so I'm just excited to hear all the different ideas that are going to come out and be able to try them. I don't really know what is going to be there or what I'm expecting, but I'm just really excited for whatever it is.
So you've had a lot of time to think. Have you come up with anything on your end? Is there any concepts that you want to try and investigate?
Oh my gosh. I feel like,
yes.
yeah. But I mean, I don't, I feel like I don't have anything super specific on what I want to try, but I really do want to explore, like, because I would say for my personal modeling experience, I'm very like flirty and like pictures and kind of very innocent looking and everything like that. And I want to try just going like full on like rock star and like, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I want to try kind of doing that stuff, because I've tried it in a couple shoots, but I didn't try my hardest because I felt kind of uncomfortable because I didn't really know what I was doing. But since I've had a lot of free time, I've kind of been thinking like, oh, I can try this and this and this. So I kind of want to try a whole different like personality, after quarantine, and just kind of experiment with that. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But, I want to try it just for fun, the adventure. Because I want to see if I can change just the way my facial expression is, and if that changes the whole story. Or if I change the way my body looks, if instead of sitting straight up, I sit like slanted and slouched down, like if that changes the whole story. I just want to try to see how many different stories I can tell in one shoot, but with the same look. But like outfit, like wise, like the same outfit, but trying different facial expressions and body postures and seeing if that changes anything, or if it's the outfit too. So, yeah.
Well, to editorialize just a bit, it's all of the above. It's everything from the facial expression, the connectedness, your feeling of confidence, your ability to emote and express. It is absolutely the hair and the makeup, the nails, the clothing, the set design, the art direction. It's this whole world of everything that comes together to tell a story. And from the from your perspective. And in my work with actors, for example, it's the same thing. In Hollywood, you have uh, obviously what they call the typecast, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, um, but what's unique about it is sort of as Homo sapiens, as a human race, there's all of this data everywhere, and our minds just have to figure out ways of how do we process all this info, and we sort of throw away a bunch of data that we don't think is necessary, and we latch onto the stuff that we think we do. And a lot of that same pattern recognition process has gone into typecasting. And if you're someone that is seen as a very glamorous person, and you have a very glamour-oriented portfolio and book, and that's what you're showing the world, then it's, oh, okay, you're the glamour person, right? You're the Jessica Rabbit. You're this is who you are and what you do. And it's also a natural part of our personality to rebel against that. And we're like,
Yeah.
well, screw that. I want to try this other thing. There's this whole world of things, and you're telling me I can only do vanilla? What if I want Rocky Road? And what's really cool is you're in a position in life where there's no rules, man. You can kind of do whatever you want. And so on the topic of sort of just to wrap up, expressing yourself and figuring out new creative concepts, what's a great way for people to get in touch with you? Should they get in touch via your agency, via Colleen Bell? Do you have, what's a good touch point for people to get to contact you?
I would say through my modeling page on Instagram, because that's where we spend a lot of time. My mom and I are always on there, and researching new creative ideas, and always open to new suggestions and things to try. So I would say that, and my agency, but I would say probably my Instagram more, just because I'm personally constantly on there. So yeah, I would say that.
Well, I'm very glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next thing. And, especially when we're talking about working with people that are under the age of 18, your mother is always at every one of your shoots, and you have a co-managed web presence. And so there's always, it isn't just you ever doing any of this. You have a strong network of people that are helping guide you through this and helping field communications. And I hope are telling you not to read certain comments, because there's many of them that don't bear ever reading. And I wonder if maybe we can sort of wrap up by talking about that. And especially for younger people that are just getting involved, however they gender identify, it's the same story. And having, how do you take those next steps forward and identify those people that can help you manage a career, especially when you're so young?
I really think having somebody, whether it's your mom or a best friend, that can be there for you and watch out for you, is something really crucial to starting your career. Because you can have the drive and want to do it, but you're going to need somebody there to support you and to protect you. So I would just say try to find somebody who knows you well and knows what will hurt you and what you like and don't like. My mother, she knows me like the back of her hand. So I think it was I was very thankful when she decided she wanted to help, and has really dedicated a lot of her time to helping me with it. So just find somebody who's very dedicated into helping you, and to being there for you, and who's dedicated to watching you succeed and to watching you develop as a person, because modeling definitely changes your perspective on a lot of things and helps you grow as a person, not only in your confidence but in your relations with other people. It really does help grow. So I would say just finding somebody who is going to be there for you no matter what, and who's going to support you and watch out for you.
Well, I think that is the best advice. Absolutely. And, just looking at the time, we should definitely wrap up. But I want to thank you very much, Kendall, for taking the time to chat with me today. And the last question that I have, I keep saying the last question that I have. I should stop doing that. But sort of the last thing that I would love to do is, if you had a message to give to anyone, and I've taken this question directly from Tim Ferriss, so no surprise. I took it directly from him. But the way that I think about it is sort of, if today was my last day on planet Earth, or if I knew that I was going to die tomorrow, and I just had one more chance to reach out to someone and to say anything, to put a message out into the universe and let it reverberate. Who would I reach out to and what would I say? And especially in a time like this, I wonder if you had a message for it, for anyone. It could be anything. To whom would it be, and what would you say?
I don't think it'd be to anyone specific, but I think it would be to people who I have held grudges against, because I've kind of developed a lot in the past year just with how I want to have my relations with people and who they would be. And I've kind of developed a sense that I don't want to hate anyone and I don't want to be mad at anyone. And not necessarily am I going to forgive people for them doing things, but I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to say, you hurt me. Okay. But if you hurt me again, then, so be it. But I'm not going to allow you to hurt me again. So I think I would reach out to people who I have not forgiven, or I have, kind of distanced myself from, and just reach out to them and be like, I have not forgiven you, but I forgive myself for allowing you to hurt me. And I would just kind of, make it to where I'm on somewhat good terms with everyone, because I feel like I am a very quick person to be like, no, you hurt me, goodbye. Like, I've always kind of been that way, just because I don't like the feeling of being hurt. I don't think anyone does, but I'm very quick to being like, no, I'm not putting up with that, goodbye. And so I would just say to anyone that I kind of had that relation with, or do currently right now, and just be like, you know what, we're going to live our lives. You and I are good. We don't have to talk all the time, but I'm not going to hate you, because hating is a lot of work, and being mad at somebody and not forgiving them is more stress on you. And, you never know what's going to happen in life, and you can't sit there and hate people and, be angry with people when it takes two people to do something in a relation with somebody else. And they could have hurt you, but you allowed them to hurt you. So I feel like it kind of goes both ways. So just opening up and saying, I don't forgive you, but I forgive myself.